welcome back. And today we are going to be making soup. Now, the last time I saw you, we made our broth, which I have right here. And that was the yield from our broth from the chicken bones, from a rotisserie chicken, and a couple of vegetables, and some salt. And so we've made our own stock and that we're going to use in our soup. Today we're doing a lemon chicken orzo soup. It's basically a chicken noodle soup. We're just using a different pasta rather than noodles. This is orzo. You can find this next to spaghetti. It looks like rice. It's a little bit bigger than rice, but it is pasta, and it will expand just like pasta does and taste just like pasta. So that will be going in our soup. We got some lemons. I do have another rotisserie chicken here, that's what we're going to use, just pulling it off the bone and shredding it by hand. I've got some lemons, spinach, I got an onion. We're going to do the Old Faithful carrots and celery. I've got a little bit of our own Parmesan for garnish on top. When we're done, we're going to grate that ourselves. A few tools that you might need is a grater, a slicer, or to skin the carrots. We got that. We're gonna use a little lemon zest, so this type of grater comes in really handy, but any grater will do. And of course, this to catch the lemon juice. I've got a little extra spinach here, and some olive oil for cooking, and a couple of herbs in here. I think there's some thyme and some oregano and a couple of garlic cloves. I'll give you a rundown of the recipe real quick. This is from our Panera Bread inspired, but there are a bunch of different versions. There's a creamy version, which is really good. There's a Greek restaurant in town that makes the same thing. That's awesome. So we're going to use 8 ounces. It won't be the whole box, so you want to measure that out. We got our olive oil, 3 carrots, 3 celery sticks, a medium onion, 2 cloves of garlic. We got a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano, salt and pepper to taste, and a bay leaf is in there as well. We're going to need about a 1/2 cup of a lemon juice, so 3 lemons. Got 1 lemon for zesting, 8 ounces of the cooked chicken breast. So the rotisserie makes it really easy, and you can get white and dark meat in there. Otherwise, you can do breast, or you can do one without. That's totally up to you. And some of the Parmesan cheese and the spinach. That's it. It's really simple. It's about 4 steps. What we're doing right now is I'm boiling up the water because we're gonna lightly cook the orzo, about 5 minutes boiling. Then we're gonna take it off the heat and cool it down, put it under cold water, and stop the cooking process because we're gonna add that back in later on and let it simmer for a while with the rest of the broth and the vegetables and everything once we get everything prepped. So that's what we're gonna do. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the skin off of the carrots and chop up our celery, and once we get our vegetables prepped, I'm going to keep the tips just like I mentioned last time. So the tips, top and the bottom of our celery sticks, we're going to put that in a little bag and save that for later because we can use this carcass for this chicken to make more chicken stock. So we've already taught you about that. It's really simple, and this is going to give you that good homemade grandma flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep some vegetables. We'll be back when we get to the next step, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so we're back. And what we've done here is we shredded up some chicken, so we pulled that off the bone. We got that ready to go. We chopped up our vegetables, our celery, carrots, and onions in here, just a little bit smaller than bite-sized pieces. So for the smaller portion of the carrot, you can just chop it straight away, and then the larger portion of the carrot, kind of slice it in half and then chop the rest of it. Celery, same thing. I split it down the center and then chop them up like that, tiny little pieces. We got some oil heated over here. I don't know if the camera, let me just pan it over just a little bit so you can see what's going on over here. So I got some oil heating. We'll get the vegetables in there and start them stirring. I lost my spoon. Here it is. So we're going to leave them in here about 5 to 7 minutes. I might want to turn my heat up a little until they start to soften and get translucent. The onion will get translucent, and the rest of the vegetables will soften a good bit because you don't really want them super crunchy in the soup. Just going to add some flavor. So we'll let them go for a few minutes. What I was doing over here was I was going to zest a lemon, and where that cheese grater comes in handy. Okay, so regular lemon juice, you just slice the lemon and then squeeze it out on your juicer. But the zesting is we'll take our grater and then take the rind of the lemon and just gently kind of scrape off the very outer layer of the rind until it starts to get a little bit white underneath. And that is what is called lemon zest. Now, it's super duper strong flavor. It's real bitter. So when it calls for lemon zest, you want to make sure you don't go too deep, and you probably want to make sure you don't use too much. My first experience with lemon zest was not a good one. Way too much, way too strong, and it ruined the dish. So if it's your first time, go a little light on the zest. And this has got lemon juice in it as well. You do want the lemon flavor, but you don't want to overdo it. So be careful with your lemon zest. So I got a little bit of that grated up, and that pretty much covered the whole lemon. So I'm going to use the skin on top. We'll save that, and it comes off very, very fine shaven. These cheese graters are really good for that, but if you have a regular cheese grater, that'll work as well. Then we're going to slice the rest of these lemons. I'm using 3 of them, and then we're going to get about a half a cup of that lemon juice. Okay, so this recipe, it really calls for a good timer because you don't want to overdo your steps. So I got about 5 minutes on my vegetables, so I set my timer so I don't forget. And then that way, if you end up, someone comes to the door, you know, the dog ran down the street or whatever, you remember that you have something on the stove that's cooking, and you don't get sidetracked. Because I have children and dogs, and it tends to be a lot of traffic in the kitchen, and you can forget that you've got something on the heat. So as a safety sake, I always set a timer. So we're working that down. I want to keep these moving, that way they don't burn. I can hear them sizzling over here, so I got some decent heat going on, but we'll give them a couple more minutes to soften up while we're prepping the lemons. The orzo, we only used not even half of the container. It's 8 ounces, which is 1 cup. You use a measuring cup and get the proper amount, because that does expand quite a bit, and you'll end up with way too much, and it'll soak up everything in your soup. So measure out your pasta. And then the rest is to taste. You know, we've got just a couple of herbs going in here, and then salt and pepper. And it's pretty inexpensive meal, and it feeds quite a bit. This amount right here should feed 12. So that's going to be 6 guys with good, healthy servings. We're going to pair it with some garlic bread that we're going to make ourselves. I went through that on a previous episode, how to make your own. It's really simple, and it is so superior to those frozen pre-made ones that you can get in the grocery store. So I highly recommend just getting used to the process of making your own garlic bread. Take the time and do it. It's going to be so much better. In fact, I've had it requested here many times since I made it on the show the last time around. So about a half a cup of lemon juice, 3 regular sized lemons ought to do the trick. So I've got my vegetables moving around, soften them up a little bit more. I'm gonna smash some garlic. We're gonna get that in there in a minute, and move on to the next step. All right, so our timer's gone off. We're gonna add the garlic now, and probably run it for another minute or so. Just let that garlic to get fragrant. We'll put that in there, and hopefully you can see what we're doing. I'll grab this with my hot pad. But yeah, just nice little colorful vegetables. Stir that around. Just keep them moving, that way you don't get anything to burn. And you can already start to smell the garlic as it softens up as well, and it's going to mix with the rest of the flavors of those vegetables really good. We'll give that a minute or so, and then we're going to add our thyme, oregano, and a bay leaf. I have this pre-measured because I wasn't sure if we had these particular spices in-house. A lot of guys like to get the packaged spices that have a little bit of everything in it, so I wanted to make sure I stuck. There goes our timer, so we can go ahead and put our seasoning in. So there goes the thyme and oregano. Like I said, whatever teaspoon measurement that was, I told you at the beginning, we'll pop that in there. Move it around a little bit. Okay. And some salt and pepper. So really kind of simple, but it makes for the classic chicken noodle soup. It's great this time of year. Good for what ails you. And like when we made the stock on the last video, the reason why it's not just chicken in there, we put some vegetables in it, just keeping our tips, our cut ends and things, because it adds more nutritional value to the stock. So you can eke out what you got with your vegetables. You can put potato in there. It really doesn't matter. It's just, there's really good combinations, and keeping it simple is also key. But you should just play around with the different types of flavors that you can keep in the pot when you're making your stock, and then we'll use the stock in our soup. So we made it ourselves, and like I said, it gives it that real authentic grandma in the kitchen kind of flavor. So we got that in there for a minute. Then we are going to add our broth, which we need a good bit of broth. So what I've got here is about 12 cups. So I've got a big measuring bowl here. I'm gonna make sure my broth is stirred up because all the goodies settle on the bottom. So this is about a 4-cup measuring bowl, and I'm gonna do this over the sink just in case. There goes one. So you can see this uses a good bit of broth, and this will save you a penny at the grocery store. And out of all of that broth, I still have about a cup left over, which I can use for other recipes that don't require so much broth. So I'm still saving a dime and using that really authentic, good homemade flavor. So we poured that in there. Now it's looking like a soup. We're gonna put this on to boil, and then we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients in a minute. I'll see ya. All right, so what we're doing right here is we're waiting for the broth to boil, and then we're gonna reduce the heat, partially cover it, and let it go for about 10 minutes to soften up those vegetables a little bit more. But I wanted to show you real quick what I did here to catch the orzo. It's really small, so a regular strainer or drainer, you might lose some of your yield by doing that. So I got, this is like a fryer thing, but a nice big flour sifter will also do well. I mentioned that when I was talking about straining the broth. What I ended up doing was taking a regular colander and getting one of our oversized coffee filters, and I put that into the colander and just poked a few holes in it with a fork or a sharp knife to let some of that stuff go through. And that's a good way of catching something that's really small like that, so you don't end up pouring this into your colander and then having most of your stuff go right on through and then down the drain. So you want to be aware of that before you strain or drain your orzo pasta, or when you're doing your broth and you don't want to lose, you want to strain out the debris, but you want to keep all the broth. So there's a little trick or tip for you. All right, we are just about ready to add the chicken and the lemon zest into the mix. I just wanted to point out that we are going to put spinach in as the last step. It only needs to be in there for a couple of minutes. We're using about 8 ounces. This is a 5-ounce serving. The bigger one is a 10-ounce. I brought a little extra from home so we can meet our 8-ounce recommended amount. And we're about 22 seconds away. I think I can go ahead and pop the chicken in here. And here's what we pulled off of our rotisserie chicken. I'm just gonna pour that in. It's been simmering for about 10 minutes or so. We're gonna put that in for about 5 more minutes. and let that refrigerated rotisserie chicken warm back up. I'm gonna add my lemon. There goes my timer. And we'll add another 5 minutes for that. Here's my lemon zest. As you can see, it comes out really, really fine. It's just some shavings off of the rind of the lemon. And like I said, that flavor is really strong. So we'll add that in. We'll give it a good stir. We're gonna let this simmer, simmer, simmer. Oh yes, and my orzo, which we will put that in there as well. So there we go. All we're missing now is the spinach, but like I said, we don't want it to be in there for too long because it will just be super duper soggy. It is gonna wilt a little bit, but we want a little structure still left in the leaves. But even leftover, this is a great soup. So 5 more minutes and we'll be ready to eat. All right, I think we're ready to find out how this turned out. Get all of our burners turned off. Let's get us a bowl here. It smells really good. So what you're gonna have looking like something like that, and we'll throw a little Parmesan on top, and there you have it. So you got your garlic bread wedge. Let me see if I can pull this camera over so you can actually get a real good look at this thing. There we go. And there she is. Lemon orzo chicken soup. And that is gonna wrap it up for us here. So on behalf of New Hanover County Performance Wellness Team, Firefighter Alger here from Station 18, right here in the heart of Monkey Junction. We hope that you enjoy, stay safe, be healthy, and we'll see you next time.